Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Meet the Internet, the show that gives me an excuse to talk to talented and interesting people from across the internet and gives you the opportunity to meet them. This week, I have Tim Leftwich, the gifted and talented member of the Rooster Teeth community and multimedia producer. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Now, you've had a big period of time since, since we last spoke. Our last Skype call. So,
Right.
Just to get things ready, who is Tim Leftwich? How would you describe yourself as a person, as a community member, as a multimedia editor? Just who are you in your mind?
I mean, how long do you got? Because that's kind of a rather long and involved answer. I'm as you said, I'm a multimedia content creator. I make YouTube videos. I play video games. I'm a nerd. I'm a day walker. I look like a normal human being, and yet somehow I end up being able to know pretty much every function of every gem on the Infinity Gauntlet. And I'm a multifaceted individual. I enjoy learning a lot, and then turn around and using those skills in what I love to do, i.e. making videos.
That's a pretty good answer. Kept it short and sweet. So, now to get to know you a little bit better, some of the things that people in the community and on the internet might not know. How old are you?
You never ask a girl her age.
Oh
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm 27.
All right.
So I'm not exactly young, but I'm
Well, you're young by society standards, just kind of old.
And
for
quite frankly,
everyone
by
else.
successful YouTube standards. I mean, a lot of your favorite guys are 32, something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm still young enough that I've got the youth and vitality and stuff like that. But I'm old enough that I know better and how to, look up copyright rules and take preemptive measures. And I've been around the block a few times. It makes for a pretty good starting point for a YouTube channel. That's it. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, that's good. Now, you've had more years than most people that, are in the community. Like, tell us a little bit about your life up to this point. Like, high school, college, how you reached the point here today, kind of like some milestones you think would be kind of important to understanding you.
I guess a good place to start would be that one of my earliest memories, and this was put together recently for me while I was giving a talk to some of the kids that went to the same high school that I went to. I happened to drop by Camden, South Carolina, where I went to a military school, and was asked to speak to a couple of the cadets over there who were wanting to pursue a career in theater and stuff like that, because this was while I was attending master's school in Shreveport, Louisiana. You can tell I didn't finish because I called it master's school. And I ended up basically telling my entire life story to these kids, and they ate it up, as they were wont to do. For Christ's sakes, it was much better than the work they probably had to do. But as I sat there telling my story, it was interesting how it all kind of lined up for me. Because one of my earliest memories is being like 3 or 4 years old. And I remember being at this not bed and breakfast, dinner and a show restaurant called the Firehouse in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, with my grandmother at age like 3. And the show they were putting on, I found out many years later, was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and we had a delightful dinner over there. I had fish and cornbread, which was one of my earliest recollections of food as well. And I remember watching the show, and I remember looking around, and I remember somehow putting together in my infantile brain that the people that were on stage were somehow more important, were somehow more worthy of these people's time, obviously, because they were watching them and laughing with them and clapping for them and enjoying them. And somewhere started firing synapses of, I want that. And I would watch Jim Carrey movies as a kid. The Mask is one of my Mask and Ace Ventura and Liar Liar, and God, that whole timeline through there were some of my favorite movies still to this day. and they were the first movies that I would walk around the house and imitate. You know, Fire Marshal Bill. I would annoy the crap out of my family with his character and In the Living Color, Fire Marshal Bill. Let me say that. I mean, just you know,
The little babby.
and I mean, I didn't realize when I would look at the screen and say I want to do that was not being a lawyer, which is what I originally went to college to do, but acting, which is what I ended up doing in college. And that's kind of how I got to where I was today. I ended up, once that became clear, once being a performer just sort of stepped out in front of me like a brick wall, because I mean, once you see something that obvious, it's like, oh yes, this is what I should have been doing all of my life. Why have I been doing anything else? But when you have all that and you have it crash down in front of you, like when you're in the middle of giving a speech to a group of 18-year-old kids who are trying to get some sort of leg up into the business and how things work, you tend to forget for a moment that you're supposed to bring it around to a point.
I've been there way too many times.
So that made for an interesting speech, and then I had to remember, and I actually confessed to the guys, I was like, I never really put it all into sequential order like that, and when you put it like that, it sort of becomes a little bit more fatalistic than choice, but it was really interesting. And I guess, once I got out of college and once I realized that Hollywood isn't going to come to me, I decided that I needed to do something. And I started to teach myself how to do video editing and watched every YouTube video that I ever enjoyed and got my hands on and scrutinized every minute of it and every frame of it and reverse engineered effects, and have learned everything that I could possibly get my hands on to make the best show that I can.
So what was your first experience on the internet itself? Like, how old were you? What,
That would have been like 12 or 13, I believe. It was definitely AOL range, like back when you got the discs in the mail, the 3.5-inch, not so floppy discs. Yeah. Those days, and I had to dial into AOL. I actually still use the same handle that I'd used back then. Oddly enough, I'm a creature of habit. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean that's more common than you'd imagine.
It was Sage of Halo, with numbers behind it, and the numbers were less important. They were actually forced upon me. But yeah, which of course would have been way before the Halo game actually came out, which God, ruined that screen name, which is why I changed to something else. But AOL chat rooms and up till 3 o'clock in the morning doing various and sundry things, and that was the internet. It was an unbridled range of whatever you could get your hands on at the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty interesting. You are an old timer of the internet by comparison to most of us baddies today.
I have had a computer since computers were a thing. My grandmother made sure, and it's really weird that it would be my grandmother who would do this, but she made sure that I had proper electronic training. She saw somehow that this machine was the future. She got me my first DOS machine when they were finally a personal computer, and I was able to work DOS at 6 years old and get into the games and play Mario on DOS. And I got my first in my room personal computer at right before I went to military school, so that would have been like 15. And I got Final Fantasy VIII with it at the same time, which at the time was just mind-blowingly awesome, because that was the first time you had like the full 3D polygon movement in the actual game, and it didn't look all squished, and also the fully rendered cutscenes.
Well, and so 7 was the first to do that, not 8.
I mean, the two incongruency. The 7 sprites were little and squished and kind of cartoony. The sprites in 8 were full body.
Yeah, exactly. Those.
But at the time, the computer that I had was the baddest mamma jamma on the block and could run that thing at ultra settings.
Settings.
I mean, so I've always, A, been a huge PC gamer as a whole, but B, have been really in touch with electronic devices. And I've always kind of been rather intuitive because of it. I like it.
Yeah, that's a good backdrop to have in this business. So now it's time to tell us one interesting fact that most people don't know about you.
One interesting fact that most people don't know about me is that for okay, all right, fine. One interesting fact that most people don't know about me is that I have only ever missed one performance of a show ever in my lifetime. And it was because I was in jail.
Okay, do you want to go through a brief run through of that story?
I do. It's actually a rather amusing story. It has a good ending.
Clearly, you're not in prison, so.
Right. I was doing a show in Charlotte, North Carolina called Altar Boys. It was a show about a Christian boy band, specifically Catholic boy band. And it was kind of a satire, but at the same time, at the heart of it, still really meant well. You know, it's only poking fun at the Catholic Church. It's not really spearing it, you know. And it was a lot of dancey, a lot of in-sync moves, and I was the bad boy, yo, rap dog, what's up? Which, let me tell you something. This white visage doing something like that, very amusing. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got to do this one number that was all kinds of James Browned out, and, yo, get on down, and shit like that. I mean, it was top, man. It was absolutely top. But anyway, we were doing a performance one night, and this would have been Thursday, I believe. And I was getting ready to go to the show. Scratch that. I was getting ready to go to class that morning, and I walk in, and my professor says, the police came by for you earlier. They were looking for you. Said if you didn't turn yourself in by Friday, that they were going to come and get you.
Pleasant greeting.
Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you know this about me, but I am white. I haven't had very many brush-ins with the law. I don't like brush-ins with the law. I think they're unnecessary. And when I get them, I tend to get heart palpitations. And so I went into the police station thinking that everything was okay. Said, hi, my name's Tim Leftwich. I heard you were looking for me. How's it going? And pretty much they said, hi, we need you to come down here and sign some paperwork if that's okay. And I said, sure. I went in, signed some paperwork, and before I knew it, I was in a holding cell. Not fun.
No.
And so...
read that paperwork, kids. Read the paperwork.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there in the holding cell, and for those who have never been in prison, A, thank your lucky stars, and B, you might not know this, but the phones in prison don't call cell phones. They only call landlines.
Well, maybe back then, but now they do.
No, still the case.
Seriously?
I've done my research since the story because it's fun to retell, and I like to make sure that that fact's still true. But yeah, no, totally still true. At least in the places that I have been, Louisiana and Texas, where I've asked that question. But it may be other ways in more populated areas. I don't know. But anyway, I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to get notice to the theater that I'm in jail right now and can't make it to the show. Sorry, leave a message. And I can't. I absolutely can't. All my numbers are my phone, which I left in my car because I'm brilliant. And
well, they probably would have taken the phone anyway, but
yes, true. So that still wouldn't have helped me, but at least it would have been closer for me to lament over. So I'm sitting there, and then I remember, oh, right. My parents are driving up from Augusta, Georgia to Charlotte, North Carolina, a 4.5-hour drive to come and see me tonight. And And so then I can't call them because they've already left and they only have their cell phones. And so I end up begging and pleading one of the, not wardens over there, one of the people working the desk, nice lady. And I told her my plight, told her that I had a show to do, told her, look at me. Do I look like I belong here? Please, I need help. I don't need normal treatment. And I ended up getting her to call the theater. She talked to one of the security officers who happened to be talking to somebody as my parents were passing them because they realized I'm not there at the show. They went on with the show, incidentally, did it with only the 4 of them and like made up some story about how I was in rehab or whatever, which totally fit the show because that's actually a part of the show. Like I've been in rehab before. So my character had been in rehab before, I should say. And so, you know, it worked-ish. They got through the show, which I was totally blown away and impressed by. They were like, we were hoping you weren't going to be mad. We were just glad you weren't, you know, hurt or anything. But anyway, so my parents happened to hear the security guard say that somebody's locked up in jail, one of the performers in Gaffney, South Carolina. And my parents go, are you talking about Tim Leftwich? And the security guard goes, yes. And so they book it down to Gaffney, South Carolina, an hour away, and come and get me out of jail. Now, thankfully, I don't remember what the charge was, but it can't have been anything serious because they didn't have to pay anything to get me out. I just got out. But that was not fun.
Did you have to go to court or anything like that?
No, that's the messed up part about it. After that incident, I never heard another word about it.
Wow.
How's that for the justice system?
Wow, that's kind of fucked up. Yeah, well, that's certainly an interesting. That's certainly something interesting the internet probably doesn't know about you. Yeah.
I look good in orange, as it turns out. I'm wearing an orange shirt right now.
Now time to get down to business. What community would you say you affiliate the most with?
Honestly, I feel like are you talking about Rooster Teeth specifically, or are you talking about just in general?
The main way that I know you is through Rooster Teeth, and a lot of people know you because of Rooster Teeth. But would you say that's the community you're closest to?
I don't know. I think it just happens to be a good proximity point. I'm a big fan of their work. I you know, meet a lot of people because of similar interests. I've worked at RTX, you know, so and I've made a video for them. So to say that I'm not a part of their community would be wrong, but I don't want to put a limiter on myself like that. I've always considered myself to be a part of a much bigger community of the whole internet, you know? I browse all of the internet equally. I hate everyone equally. I feel like I belong to the internet.
Truly.
And so I've never, even though I've been active in forums of Penny Arcade, I've never considered myself like a Penny Arcade fanboy, or, you know, even though I've been a major part of
throw that term around,
other people. Dear. Fair enough. Even though I've been a major part of other communities, I've never exclusively considered myself a part of any one of them. I am a rock skipping through the different ponds of life.
Oh, I see. Very philosophical at the end there.
Yeah.
But why have you chosen to work so closely with the RT community, despite all this?
Ease of access. Honestly, if I'm to give the honest to God's answers, they are just so personable and so easy to talk to and easy to get to. As long as you are cool, you know, as long as you don't go up and pester them, as long as you don't go up and act like they're the biggest stars you've ever seen, and just talk to them like regular people, they are really accessible. And they're really starting to get to a point where their popularity is getting to a general populace. And so it becomes really easy to say, hey, the general populace would love to know a little bit more about the way you chainsaw carve stuff, Griffin. Would you like to come on my show? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. That's my Griffin impression. And To be fair, that's my female impression.
Yeah,
in
I
general.
kind of noticed
So,
that. I've heard
you
that
know,
impression before.
But it's fun for me because it gives a channel for some of these personalities who might otherwise be limited to their own venues. Like Joel can't really be himself on a Let's Play.
True.
He's got to be Joel Heyman. But if I were to invite him onto my show, there's not that expectation. There's the expectation of getting to know the person behind the personality, which, to be fair, is kind of unfair for me because my personality is the person behind the personality. I mean, I'm not very deep, as it turns out. I'm kind of shallow.
I wouldn't say that, but you know,
Well,
don't put yourself down, Tim.
try.
Don't put yourself down here for the audience.
No, what I mean by that is I try very much to put who I am on the surface. You know, I don't hide behind layers of double meanings, and I don't, you know, hide my personality when I meet a new person. I'm immediately who I am the minute I meet you, so that way you get used to it much faster. Because I know that I'm rather brash sometimes, and I can be a little overly energetic, and I can be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Annoying, exasperating.
How you say in your country.
Exhausting. I can be very exhausting to people who might not be used to keeping up. And I understand that. And I totally get it. I've been on that opposite side so many times that it's easy for me to step back and say, okay, that's a personality flaw that I need to work on. When I'm giving an interview, I need to shut the hell up and let the guest talk for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. So you try as you get older to gain enough self-awareness that you can at least fix whatever mediocre problem you might have.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, my headphones keep falling out my earbuds right now, so I apologize
okay.
to the audience.
You just got to get bigger ears.
Yeah. Now, why did you give your videos your name? Like Tim Tries and Tim Talks and, you know.
I love alliteration.
Yeah.
I love wordplay as a whole, but specifically I love alliteration. And
It is rather pleasing to the ear.
It really is, and it usually rolls off the tongue rather easily. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tim Talks, the show that's only partially a show. Blah, 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 blah. It sounds really nice. It looks really nice when I'm writing out the titles, and it's if it's something I'm going to have to say for the next foreseeable future, it might as well be something fun. You know, something that I enjoy saying, something that I can eventually work into a sentence. Say if I finally ever get an intro graphic or something like that, that I can be like, and now that's what we're going to do this week on, and then Tim Tries. Blah,
Metal
blah,
music
blah.
from hell starts playing.
Yeah, whatever the
Pyrotechnics.
graphic might be, you know, yeah, fireworks and dinosaurs blowing fire made out of tigers and, you know, whatever.
Fire made out of tigers. That seems like something a good metal band name would be.
Fire made of tigers. And its album Orbital Cooter. Available this fall. But yeah, you know, it's fun for me to sort of find a new way to tell a story or to get across a point that might require learning a new technique or a new skill or improving on something that I've done in the past. And that's always kind of kept me able to get better with everything that I do. And as long as you keep getting better with everything you do, eventually people are going to catch on.
Yeah. Now, what got you into editing specifically? What were your inspirations, your stuff like that?
Well, I have the degree in the in front of the camera side. I don't in the editing and technical stuff and the lighting and the camera work. And so I really, I realized that if I wanted to make my own YouTube channel, it was going to be a long time before I was going to be able to afford to pay somebody to do anything like that.
Yeah.
So I had to learn. And actually, one of the first people to teach me was James, Jim Jam, who plays a whole lot of games with me on my channel, and was actually my first guest on Tim Talks.
Yes, that was a good Tim talk. It was a good introductory one. It was.
Yeah, and he's my favorite co-op partner. I mean, he's my go-to guy if I ever find a 2-player game that I want to play. He is my preferable co-op partner, and because he taught me everything that I knew in the beginning about editing, and the first thing that I started working on was the Tim Teaches Guild Wars 2 primer video, and that was a year ago right now, was when I started working on that video. And that video did not come out until July. I spent 6 months working on that video to make sure that it was perfect, or at least as close to perfect as I could get, because that video, more than any one that I've ever done and have done since, other than the other Guild Wars 2 videos, and still not 6 months worth of this, was a labor of love. I mean, I absolutely adore that game, and I knew that if I could figure out some way to present an MMO in an understandable style that was kind of cinematic, very informative, and very fun to watch, that means that I can do it to any kind of game. Because an MMO, let's face it, that's one of the most technically complex and informationally solid kinds of games that there are right now. There's so much information that revolves around an MMO, it's impossible for a new player to just break in when it's 5 years old.
Because there's just been so much that happens.
Mm-hmm. And so I considered that my first challenge was to make a primer video. Someone who had never heard of Guild Wars 2 or even the franchise at all could watch that video and be like, okay, I feel comfortable enough that I could take this game on and do it under 10 minutes. I didn't do it in under 10 minutes. I think it was like 12 or 15, but still, do it in a reasonable amount of time. And the video turned out extremely well. The ending still gives me goosebumps to this day. And because I got to use the original tagline for the game, which it was a simple 3-word sentence. You know, I mean,
for our audience, for those who haven't watched the video,
it was really neat because I built up these rapidly accelerating cutscenes of various components, and the music was building in this high symphonic orchestra, and it's really beautiful. Please go watch it because it works really great. But the tagline is, "What's your story?" And so in the midst of this build-up, the music cuts, and it comes back to my face, and it's just me looking dead down the barrel of the camera, and I just say, "What's your story?" And then the music finishes dramatically, the flourish comes up, fade to white, Guild Wars 2. It's very presentational, it's very cinematic, it's very stylized, and it's very powerful, and it works. And, you know, when you make something like that, you never want to get too overblown about yourself. You never want to be like, oh, this is the best thing I'm ever going to do. Oh, this is the best thing ever made, or anything like that ever. But you absolutely are qualified to sit there for a minute and say, no, I think this is pretty damn good. It gives me gamer goosebumps. So somebody's going to feel the same way. And you have to have at least that amount of narcissism to make things on YouTube in the first place. Otherwise, why is anybody going to care about your opinion? If you don't show the confidence enough that you believe yourself, why should anyone else believe you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you don't, it's like you put yourself into your work. If you are unsure about yourself and your abilities, it will show in your work.
Exactly. And as such, it means that sometimes you have to be prepared to defend it a little bit more ardently than others and say, no, I really did put hard effort into this, and it should be appreciated as such. You know, it wasn't just a video that I made like a regular Let's Play where you spend an hour playing through a game and talking shit about some dog that comes up on the screen. This was something that I scripted out, went out and specifically found the footage for, recorded it myself, edited everything together, lovingly stitched it together with the music, and made something good.
Yeah.
While doing all the other stuff. I mean, you absolutely do the other stuff. You do the other stuff for fun, but you have to have something that is of quality, that is really genuinely good. And that brings in the new people. You do all the fluff once you've hooked them with your personality that sustains them and keeps them around. But if you want to be successful, you have to have some kernel, some core show, some mechanic that is good.
I mean,
even if it is as simple as a video that comes out once every 3 months of Guild Wars 2 stuff.
I mean, personally, I've been editing media. It was mainly audio for high school. High school was from freshman year. I had a band and I recorded audio, and God, was I terrible in my original recording styles. Man, I wiped as much evidence of that time away from the internet as possible. But I had a band and I recorded it, and you know, it wasn't until junior year when I started picking up an actual book about how to edit audio properly that I started doing that. And then I started getting into Rooster Teeth in the summer of my senior year, and I started really thinking, man, I would love to like edit for a living. I had always wanted to edit audio for a living, but it's like then I saw the video aspect, and I started really getting absorbed into YouTube, and I realized this is something, this is something that I would enjoy doing, because the first and only song that I ever fully produced from beginning to end with all the tracks took me about 45 hours of work.
Yeah.
It took about 45 hours and about a good, some serious gigabytes as well. But it was a labor of love. It was a labor of love. And it didn't come out nearly as good as I wanted it to. But the fact that I proved to myself that I could help compose, help play, help make a song from beginning to end was proving to me that I believed I had the ability to. So I'm going to college for journalism, and part of the whole journalism aspect, there's the print journalism, there's the personality, but they also, at my school, they have the production side of the journalism, and that's what I'm focusing on.
Just getting enough to get out there and start is half the ruddy battle.
Exactly.
So if you can do that, then you're on your way.
Yeah. What were your goals when you started producing content exactly, and how have they changed?
Honestly, and this was some good advice that I heard over various podcasts when I was doing my research. I heard some good advice that said for the first year or two that you make content as a creator, whatever it is, music, podcasts, art, YouTube videos, statues of butts, I don't know, whatever it is that you do. For the first year,
we got to keep Carrie in check at that point.
For the first year or two, it should be largely a rhetorical exercise. And you should do it for yourself. Because you have to get to a point where you make yourself happy with your own content. Then and only then should you make it for other people. And so that's been my goal for the last year, is to get to a point where I make stuff that I enjoy. And I'm getting there. Honestly, I really am. I just did an interview last week with Griffin Ramsey, and that was fantastic. I had so much fun editing that video because I didn't realize just how much she enjoyed fucking with me. And it's interesting when you're sitting there trying to take all the specs and make sure everything's going fine, and you know, checking all your levels and values and knobs and buttons and hooks and nooks and crannies. You're not able to pay attention to everything. And so sometimes one of the things that goes out of the window are the things that are being said into your ear by your guest. And so
the
earlier
description,
today,
the link to his Griffin Ramsey video will be in the description.
I did one earlier today with an actress friend of mine, Barrett Perlman, where she was asking me about sync procedures because she had never done it before, and I thought that she said, "Okay, let's ready to go." So I did the full sync, and she just stared at me, smiling, and didn't know what the hell was going on. And then I thought she got it, and because I wasn't looking at the video, because if I look at the video, I'm going to fake hear her voice in my head because I can see her mouth moving, and that'll throw them off my count. And so when I came back, I was like, okay, cool. I guess we're ready to go then. She was like, okay, I guess we're ready to go then. And I went in and started editing it and realized exactly what happened and just howled with laughter at my own stupidity. It's wonderful for your self-esteem.
I had some videos I had to scrap, some interviews before this I had to scrap because just one of them was totally not my fault. One of them, for some reason, the video was sped up like twice as fast but it changed at varying amounts, and I just had to scrap the whole interview. And it was like, literally, it's like you had like maybe 30 seconds after you changed one speed, and then you needed to change the speed again by a different variation, and you needed to go over it like 5-6 different times just to find something that would sync with the audio. And the one thing that you should never do is you should never change the speed of your audio. You can change the speed of your video, but you can't change the speed of your audio, because if you do that, it morphs the sound. That was something I learned way before this, but you know, that requires a lot of pitch correction and stuff like that to make it work. But it doesn't seem natural after a point.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I literally just had to scrap the whole thing. I literally spent 3 different days going at it at different times, you know, and even going and doing it in college when I had free time. There was just no way to repair the video, because I got about 15 minutes into the video, and it was just a mess. There was just no way that I could get it to sync perfectly, and I was just, this needs to be redone.
You know, it's troublesome trying to do a show like this over the internet when when technology isn't perfect. Latency issues are always bad, and you can never tell exactly what the connection is going to be like for that night. I do the best that I can, and here's to, you know, Google Fiber coming here very soon. So
you are a lucky bastard for that. You are a lucky bastard for that. You know, well, you know, the obvious question that everybody asks anybody on the internet that produces any kind of content whatsoever is, you know, what equipment and what software do you use?
Well, I use Premiere Pro, CS6.
So do I.
As well as After Effects.
I have yet to really dabble with After Effects.
After Effects is my baby. You can do all kinds of stuff with that thing. I've been able to modify trailers and do entire paint wipes and animate text, and even I have barely scratched the surface of that freaking program.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I saw an introductory video, and I'm just like, I'll come back to this. I'm just going to come back to this.
And I have a Logitech C920, I think.
It's one of the 1080p webcams.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also have a Logitech 720, like I think 210, something like that, camera that I actually use for the Skype call. So that way latency issues aren't a problem, because it's only having to transmit the 721 instead of my nice 1081, which is recording this video.
Exactly. I mean,
and then I have a Samson C01U USB studio condenser mic. that I believe I got for around, and I am totally just completely botching this audio by doing this, but I don't care. You'll
I
edit it together and fix it in post.
I'll try. There's only so much you can do when you're fucking around with a mic, but you know.
It's true. It should be all right.
Yeah.
I won't mess with it anymore. And then I've got this extendable arm and nice pop filter, which I think all in all was about $90 for the entire thing, which is a pretty good deal on Amazon, and is a very nice condenser mic. I mean, it sounds amazing. Came with a spider basket, and you know, professional quality.
Exactly.
The next thing I'm gonna get is I had the it's an HDV camcorder, but I had the exact model number in my head earlier. I'm gonna try and get one of those for Christmas, so that way I can do full 1080p Steadicam shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm
we
slowly
could
but surely
get
building
into
my
we
army.
could do an entire hour's worth of programming just based on that. You know, that's just so that if people who want to do stuff that you do, I want to add this little caveat that, you know, it doesn't matter what the hardware doesn't matter as much as your technical ability, because I play saxophone, and there's an old saying in music, at least in jazz music, says you can have a shit instrument and you can make beautiful music out of it, or you could have the top of the line best instrument you got, but if you have no skill in it, or you have poor skill in it, the sorry guy who has, you know, a saxophone that has no lacquer on it and, you know, stuff like this, that guy, he is going to make better music than you regardless of your equipment, because he has the skill, you know.
This is true. But you must also remember that this is the internet we're talking
Exactly.
about.
So you have
And
to
they
get
are very fickle.
They are very.
So when you are making a starting point, when you're making your first entrance, you have to remember that this is the first impact that you're going to make on a lot of these people's lives for quite a while.
Exactly.
So it needs to be of at least the quality of a program that you yourself would watch.
Exactly.
And I've always felt like your own personal taste is a pretty good barometer. If you make something that you yourself would watch, then it's probably at least good enough to put out on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
And that usually means at least 720 HD footage. That usually means at least 30 frames, if not full 60.
Exactly.
That usually means a certain level of quality. But you're right. It is mostly personality based.
Yeah.
If you have an addictive and attractive personality and you can insert yourself into people's habits, then you've won.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you can, you know, no matter how good of equipment you have to have the talent behind it in order to make something work, you know.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
yeah. What's your method to producing content? Like, what is your method that you go by when you start producing?
It depends. There's some times where I sit down and I go through extensive effort to find a topic, and then I sit down and write about it, but that's usually a slow trudge. Oftentimes, I'll just be looking up something or talking to a friend or thinking about something, and I'll get struck with inspiration. And that with the Content ID video, I made that video at midnight the night before. I was talking to my roommate about the copyright stuff because he hadn't heard anything about it, and I showed him all the videos that I had in the link dump. Told him what was going on, and I realized, oh hey, I could make a video about this, and immediately pulled out my iPod and recorded exactly what I was saying. Turned right around, wrote that down, and made the video. Yeah, after cleaning it up and you know, turning it into a speech basically.
Yeah.
And then
yours was the first
there.
video I personally watched on the whole matter, and then I watched the videos after that. All of these videos will be in the description for your personal viewing.
You sit there and you take a look at the video, and you think about what parts could be accentuated by showing the information while telling related information. Like, if I'm telling you about my Content ID strikes, I don't have to tell you exactly which ones were stricken. I expect enough of my viewer that they can look at the picture that I'm putting on the ruddy screen and see exactly what games that got flagged. I don't have to waste the 15 seconds saying the games.
Yeah.
So you have to think about stuff like that. You have to, when you are making the videos, you have to think about them as though you were watching them. And it's kind of a of two minds problem,
Yeah.
you know, where you're trying to focus on actually giving the performance, but at the same time, you also have to think about what you're going to put over your left shoulder, or, you know, what you're going to have over in this corner, and also that this corner is actually this corner. Sorry, you can't, yeah, the pointing at the right corner actually points at the left corner.
Yeah.
Because you're opposite.
Yeah.
And everything like that. And it's just all the little performance aspects that you have to concentrate on, while at the same time continuing to ramble on and somehow coming around to a cohesive point.
Which, that's honestly, when you start getting into monologues, people don't really realize how difficult it is to bring something to a head after you've gone on.
Especially when it's not already written.
Exactly.
That's the real difficult part.
I've done, I'm very good at public speaking. I've excelled in my, in that particular field, despite, various disabilities that I have. But regardless of that, it's like one of the things that you have to do is you need to know when your point has been made and then make the point cohesive with a solid ending. And oftentimes that can be very difficult to do if you are just doing a monologue.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very easy to start writing a good story.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to bring about a good end.
Now, how would you describe your style of production?
Honestly, I just do whatever works best for the video that's at hand.
So you're more of a you're not like a solid, rigid kind of person. You're more of saying that things change throughout the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you kind of have to do.
I mean, you really do. If you're playing a game that lends itself very easily to doing cut-ins and music overs and jokey stuffs, then you do that. If you're playing something that requires a bit more of a straightforward look at something because the game plays very quickly or is paced properly or whatever, then you play it more straightforward and you let the game carry it.
Yeah.
If you need to interject a little bit of a humor into the video, then that's fine, but a lot of the times things stand up on their own, so you only have to slap a beginning and end slate on it, I mean, it really just depends on the needs of the video. I don't try and force anything, I don't try and insert my own witticisms into everything.
Yeah.
It just sort of either comes or it doesn't. And if it doesn't come, it's because it wasn't inspired and therefore would feel out of place if I tried to force it.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and put in my face cam and scream into the camera. That's very dumb to me.
Yeah. But, some people find that to their taste. And,
yeah.
To each his
14.
own, but you can't appeal to everyone.
I'm hating on PewDiePie members. What can I say?
I'm not a huge fan of him myself, but we're gonna diverge from that because he is the #1 personality on YouTube, so we don't want to make too many enemies. Now, you mentioned earlier in this interview that you made a video for Rooster Teeth, and for those who didn't know about this, would you like to go into this, explain it?
Sure. I made the Rooster Teeth Vines video, the Vine compilation video that's on their website, and is actually a video made kind of by accident, oddly enough. I did an interview with Blaine, the intern over there, whom you've recently seen way more of than you should. And I did a cut-in because we were talking about the Vines that were getting pretty popular that Rooster Teeth had just done. And I mentioned to him kind of offhandedly, oh, hey, y'all should make a video about that. And he's like, I think they're working on something like that, but And I said, yeah, or maybe they're just waiting on somebody from the community to do something, because that does happen as well. Sometimes they give people the opportunity to step up.
Yeah.
And so as I was going through and trying to cut together the vines for the cut-in that I usually do in my interviews, I realized that just putting the straight-up vines, which are in the traditional Apple format of being in an odd resolution straight up and down,
Yeah.
I was like, balls to it. I'll just slap on a background. You know what? I'll just do a little fade in between. I think I'll just put some titles in between each one. And before I knew it, I was halfway done making the very video that I was railing on them in the conversation for not fucking making. And so I sit here with my roommate, and he walks in at the halfway point, basically, and he sees me making it, and he's like, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and finish it out just for fun? And I said, fine. So I finished it out. I put on the music. I did the interstitials.
Shout out to
I
Tim's roommate for making his video possible.
Right. And I put it all together and just could not, was crying, laughing, making this video. And I was like, I'm on to something very special here. And so I uploaded it to my channel, and within like 4 hours, it was sitting in around like 8,000 views.
Yeah. And didn't you also put it on the subreddit?
I did. I put it on the Rooster Teeth subreddit, as I am wont to do. Whenever I put out something that pertains to any community, I advertise like a shameless whore and put it out there for the world to see, because that's the only way anyone's going to see it. And so, like, every time I've ever done an interview with a Rooster Teeth person, it's gone on there. Anytime I've ever done with an internet box person, it's gone on to there. You see what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And so I put it on there, and then I walk away for a bit, because I don't want to be one of those neurotic people sitting there hitting F5, because I would have been.
That's actually, there's actually sound logic to that. I mean, in audio editing, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do edits days over, because your ears get tired of the same material, so you're supposed to come back to it. So it's like you come back to it. Like, the people who usually just rush through their editing all at once and, like, get it all done at once, but they're rushing on a deadline, it usually doesn't come out as good as, as what it could be if time is, like, taken towards it. That's how I approach my personal editing,
And so after a while, I went back and looked at it. After a while, being like 4 or 5 hours after it had gotten to the 8,000 mark, I looked, and there was a post from the official Rooster Teeth Reddit account that said, absolutely love this video. Here's the thing. We've been trying to make a video about the vines for a while, but we wanted to wait until we had at least a couple of minutes worth. But videos like this kept beating us to the punch, because apparently I wasn't the first one to make a video like that. I was just the one who did it the best, because the next sentence was, the rub here is that I actually really like this video. Hey OP, would you mind taking it down in the morning after it's waned in popularity a little bit, and give me an email at bernie@roosterteeth.com /Bernie, which was a really, really, really awesome sentiment, because I had done my research after I had found out that some people had been blocked from making videos like that before, and seeing the messages that the Rooster Teeth account had left on there that were just 1 or 2 sentences long of, please remove this, please take this down, please remove this, please take this down. I was really worried, honestly, because that's the last thing you ever want to do as any sort of honest fan, is step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
And suddenly get a bad response that you didn't want. And so I was worried about that happening, but thankfully that did not. And Bernie, they made, God, he was so awesome. Called me into the office, met with me, sat down with Barbara and Brian Beheim, the art director over there. We watched the video through. They were laughing the whole way through it, and they made some special assets for me, the little Vine framework that they have going on there, as well as the Rooster Teeth logoage.
Yeah.
And gave me a few notes, but the video is 98% the same as it was when I put it out the first time.
I personally downloaded the original video just so that I was like, I have this. I have this
And
before. It no longer exists.
I was nothing but floored with how wonderful they were to work with, how professional they were to work with, and how much they really, Bernie especially, just let me go. You know, he didn't. I did. It's not like I ever expected anyone to look over my shoulder or anything, but excuse me. This was
Don't
a video
die.
that was going to be put out. Yeah, really, on the official Rooster Teeth channel. And so it's being made by some random member of the community. And yes, the initial outputting was all right, at least good enough to get his attention. I'm not going to sit here and say it was amazing, but it was enough to get his attention. So that's a lot of trust to put in someone whom you've never met, whom you've only seen a few pieces of their work, and whom he now follows on Twitter. And
you got to follow Friday that exact same week.
yeah, and so it does a lot to bolster a man's confidence.
Exactly.
Is what I can say there. It felt really good.
Yeah. So, you know, what is now back to something else. How's your schedule? You've had some weird scheduling strategies. What do you What do you think would how have those changed over time?
Well, I've always tried to put out a fair, constant stream of content because, like I said earlier, it's tough to insert yourself into someone's habit, which is the secret to gaining success on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's making someone wake up in the morning and go, oh, I wonder what video Tim's going to put out today. Oh, I haven't seen Mike in a couple of days. I miss him. I'm going to watch one of his videos. Clack, 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 clack.
Yeah.
That's the secret. And so I started out doing my interviews like once every other week and putting out a video once every 3 days. And then I started getting better at it. The average production time dropped from like 3 hours per video down to like 20 minutes a video.
Because what people people don't really understand, like, Let's Plays are a golden piece of content because they require, in a lot of cases, such little editing compared to like your interviews, which require quite a bit of editing by comparison.
Oh yeah.
And
no,
it's like
I
you can
watched
just
those interviews, no shortage of at least twice.
Yeah.
All the way through.
This will be
just for every specific frame. Yeah, just for specific framework. I mean, editing work and the cut-ins and making sure that every specific frame is perfect.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of person that I am.
And that's what the internet really wants today, you know, perfection.
And so I eventually got it to where I was doing a video every other day. And then I eventually got to the point where I was doing a video every day. And then I moved. And unfortunately, relocating to an entirely new city and finding a new career path tends to take a toll on the amount of free time that a person has.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of drop back a little bit, unfortunately. I'm working on getting it better. I usually am able to get out at least 2, usually 3 videos a week. I've gotten now to the point where I've gotten back to doing a Tim Talks every other week. I've got another one in the bag that I could put out this week. I probably will, actually. So there'll be 2 back-to-back episodes of Tim Talks this coming up week. And as I start to get more guests in, I'll be able to do that more. And as I start actually making money from these things and start being able to take more time away from day jobs, I'll be able to focus on making more videos that way. And
yeah.
Now that I have a list of, you know, Let's Play and monetize-friendly companies, I've started to build a rapport with some of these people and have started to get some beta codes and have started to get monetization permission and starting to make a little bit of money. And I mean, nowhere near enough, but it is a little bit to offset. I mean, $100 a month is still $100 a month better than I was making this time last year. And as such, I'm pouring every minute that I possibly can into making every possible minute of content that I can make it as fast as I can. But with the new content ID rules, it's becoming a lot harder. I don't have a capture card yet. I'm working on that too.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of stuck just with PC games, but I say that there's way too many PC games for you to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, as long as you have a Steam account, you have, like, a plethora of Let's Play material.
So I've chosen to, instead of focus on a quantity of videos, to make sure that every video I do put out is rewatchable 10 times.
And that's something that's very important.
That each video that I put out is of good quality.
Yeah.
Is lovingly crafted. Isn't just slapdashedly thrown together.
Yeah. What has been the favorite video game that you've done a Let's Play in?
It's got to be either Stanley the Parable or Antechamber, one of the two. Antechamber, because it was just so different and just so new. And it was my first. I mean, you never forget your first. But that game was just so damned good and so ripe for Let's Play potential, because the game just messed with you the entire time. I mean, it was literally nothing but 18 episodes of the game messing with my head. And that's wonderful. And then the Stanley Parable is exactly the same thing, except completely different.
I've played 2 runs of the Stanley Parable, and man, I broke the game on my first run.
I love it.
Oh,
it's
man,
great,
it was like, it's a good game. It's a great game. And the fact that each little thing takes about 15 minutes is just ripe Let's Play material.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, going back to your question about what kinds of content would I like to make, my interviews tend to be about an hour, because that's perfect time to take the 10 to 15 minutes to get a guest acclimated to this climate.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can take that long for people to unwind and realize, yes, this actually is the fun conversation that I advertised it as. It's not a jump interview where I'm going to grill you for 15, 20 minutes on whatever. We're just having fun here. Then you get to a good solid 20, 30, 45 minutes of good content and good conversation.
Yeah.
15 minutes of the questionnaire. Boom. Show's over. Let's Plays, on the other hand, you tend to only want to do like 10 to 15 minutes. Any more than that, you're starting to waste people's time. And you might want to break it up into another episode, and you're starting to lose people's attention.
Yeah.
Any shorter than that, and you haven't made enough progress for the episode to even matter.
Yeah.
And then when you're doing, like, informational videos, you're in and out in under 5 minutes. Boom.
Yeah.
Done. You need to say exactly what you need to say in the most cohesive and shortest way possible.
Exactly.
And then get out. Leave them on some just mind-numbingly expressive thought at the end, and boom, out.
Exactly.
That's the way you make content. That's the way I make content anyway. And it's fun for me because it creates, like, in those guidelines for each of those things, it creates a whole set of challenges for me to tell this story within these rules and guidelines.
Exactly.
And so, in creating a challenge, in getting my own juices flowing, it creates a better video than if I had just done it any old way that I wanted to in the first place.
And that's, you want to make it interesting. That's the whole point. You have to make it interesting, or else people aren't going to watch.
And interesting for you.
Exactly.
Because it's going to get boring and repetitious if you do not.
Which is like, I imagine, like, when Rooster Teeth started out, their, like, Minecraft Let's Plays was all so new. It was just on the Xbox, and now it's like they've had to move to PC, and they've had to, like, they're running out of things to do. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, like with Achievement Horse going into Achievement Hunt and that new show Go, eventually you do realize that you have to kind of do things that keep things fresh. It's like any marriage. Sometimes you got to bring in a new sex toy.
All right. I feel as though that would be a good point to let off for that kind of a statement. But just to finish out the interview, what would be your advice to aspiring producers, editors, content creators out there? What would be some tips and tricks to get good quality and, a nice way to, short, simple things to, say?
Okay. Here's my best piece of advice. If you're looking to make content for the internet and you want to figure out how to do so without being worried about what other people think, just don't worry about what other people think. It's just that simple. I know people are going to yell at you. People are going to scream and cuss and go in your comments and thumbs down and blah, 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 blah. The important thing is to make stuff that you like, and your audience will find you. Because clearly, if those people are commenting on your video in that way, you have made them feel something. It might not be the emotion you want, but it's something. And so you work with that. And if my favorite little anecdote that I was told was, what does a duck do when it's caught in a pouring rain? Nothing, because a duck is waterproof. It doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bother it. So when people start yelling at you on the internet about how much you suck, if you don't suck, then it doesn't matter.
That's pretty good. That's very, very good way to end the interview. Now here's where we do house cleaning. Your name drops, your Twitter handle, your YouTube channel, whatever else you would like to do. Your shameless promotion, being a shameless whore, as you say.
This is my favorite part. Well, you can find me on youtube.com/Tim Leftwich. That's Leftwich, like the delicious treat and the direction. You can find audio versions of my show Tim Talks on SoundCloud.com/Tim Leftwich. You can find me at Tim Leftwich or Facebook.com/Tim Leftwich. Unified branding.
Yeah, I know that much.
And I've made it very easy to find me in pretty much everywhere, and I'm fairly accessible. So bug the crap out of me.
And well, that's about it. Thank you everyone for watching this episode of Let's Meet the Internet, and enjoying the company of myself and the great Tim Leftwich, the folklore Tim Leftwich.
I was waiting on that. I was gonna see where you were going.
Folklore.
He called me legendary before, and I said I'm not quite legendary. Word hasn't spread that far yet. So he's calling me folklore instead.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Anyway,
the tall tale.
The tall tale.
The tall tale of Tim.
Yes. All of the
alliteration.
Yes. All the videos that have been mentioned here will be in the description. So will his channel and the whole 9 yards. All those links will be there. So give him that publicity. Don't make him be a shameless whore for nothing. And thank you. Have a good one.